Hello, everybody. Welcome back, or simply just welcome if you're new. A while back, I made a video about one of my favorite bands, Sleep Token, and since there was a lot of hype surrounding them and their new singles. Now, that video has gotten quite a lot of views. I wanted to create a better and more up-to-date video giving an overview of the band's catalog and give some of my personal thoughts along the way. I also kind of have plans to make this a series covering some of my favorite modern rock and metal bands, but we'll see how that goes. I might open it up to more legacy acts and things of that nature, some bigger bands. But anywho, let's get to Sleep Token. So first of all, the best overview of the band that could be given is one that they themselves have provided in the description for the Thread the Needle music video. So the band's bio reads as this, the one that they've given themselves. Sleep Token are a masked, anonymous collective of musicians, united by their worship of an ancient deity crudely dubbed Sleep, since no modern tongue can properly express its name. This being once held great power, bestowing ancient civilizations with the gift of dreams and the curse of nightmares. Even today, though faded from prominence, sleep yet lurks in the subconscious minds of man, woman, and child alike. Fragments of beauty, horror, anguish, pain, happiness, joy, anger, disgust, and fear coalesce to create expansive, emotionally textured music that simultaneously embodies the darkest and the brightest abstract thoughts. He has seen them. He has felt them. He is everywhere. Sleep Token, held by the perpetually tormented, supremely talented Vessel, creates music that brings to the fore our most submerged thoughts and feelings, coaxing them from the desolate, terrifying caves of our subconscious mind. Again, that's what the band wrote about themselves, not me. So, as far as Sleep Token's music is concerned, I do think they are a hard band to put a label on in terms of genre, since they play around with multiple, such as indie pop, R&B, metal, alternative rock, and even little dashes of hip hop here and there with some of the drumming and some vocal passages. While they experiment with all these genres, the metal elements I think are one of the only constants in their music, as most of the songs have very heavy, low-tune riffs, even if they're just in the background, just kind of playing root notes. So think of like Deftones, Meshuggah, and bits of like Hozier or something like that, some more like pop artists, all blended into one band, one project. So the band released their first EP, One, in 2016, the same year they formed. Looking back, you could very much tell that the band was still in an infancy, as both their songwriting approach and production haven't fully evolved yet. There are only 3 songs here, so while I do recommend listening to the entire EP, one song I think you should check out is Thread the Needle, as it's the most representative of what the other 2 tracks have to offer, at least in my opinion. So, yeah, recommend listening to the whole thing, but Thread the Needle is really the song to look out for. In 2017, the band released another EP titled 2. This release has more of a theme, with each of the songs being named after ancient cities, Calcutta, Nazareth, and Jericho. This EP also shows how much the band have evolved their sound, as the genre blending is a bit more fluid this time around, and the songs are a bit more engaging to listen to both musically and vocally/lyrically. Again, I recommend listening to the entire thing, but the one song I do recommend is Nazareth, as the band still plays it live to this day and is one of Sleep Token's darkest songs. It's also one of 2 songs where Vessel swears, which he only says fuck once. He doesn't have much of a potty mouth. So that is an interesting detail I have noticed. That Gods are the only 2 songs that are actually like explicit in Sleep Token's catalog, so interesting observation. Continuing, the band didn't release another EP in 2018, but they did release 3 singles in Jaws, a cover of Outkast's Hey Ya, and The Way That You Were. Jaws is a more typical Sleep Token song with a somber intro building up to a heavy part towards the end. The Hey Ya cover is completely different to the original, as it's more stripped down with a solo performance by Vessel singing and playing piano. This version of the song also puts the sadness of the main lyrics to the song to the front and makes them obvious, since, Hey Ya is one of those cases where it's like the music is very happy, but the lyrics are very dark and sad. Also, Vessel doesn't rap on this at all, and he doesn't sing a lot of lyrics from the second half of the original song. The Way That You Were is pretty similar to this, as it is just Vessel singing with an organ playing a simple melody. At least I think it's an organ. If somebody actually knows the instrument, please correct me. It's not a bad song, but pretty underwhelming when compared to other songs, at least in my opinion. Out of these 3, I recommend Jaws the most, but they are all worth a listen. Again, like everything this band does. It's definitely worth checking out. 2019 saw the band release their first full-length album titled Sundowning. This album had a genius marketing plan behind it, as almost every song was released as singles every few weeks until the entire record was out. The album also shows that the band has fully realized their sound, as the line between pop and metal in their music basically doesn't exist, as the transitions are quite seamless. The album also shows off the full range of the band's sound, with very soft pop ballads such as Give and Take Aim, crushing alternative metal such as Gods and The Offering, and a blend between those two styles in songs like Dark Signs and Higher. The songs I recommend checking out are The Night Does Not Belong to God, The Offering, Higher, and Bloodsport, though every track has something cool to offer, so I am still an advocate for listening to the entire LP at some point. The band released a deluxe edition of Sundowning in 2020 with an alternate cover shown here, and a small selection of bonus tracks dubbed From the Room Below, which is just Vessel singing and playing piano. These tracks featured a reworked version of Bloodsport, a brand new song called Shelter, and covers of Billie Eilish's When the Party's Over and Whitney Houston's I Want to Dance with Somebody. Just a note about the From the Room Below tracks. Don't listen to them late at night. You'll thank me later. In September 2021, the band released their second album, This Place Will Become Your Tomb. Unfortunately, this album had a more standard release schedule, with 3 singles and accompanying music videos being released before the full album, those being Alkaline, The Love You Want, and Fall From Me, in that order. The band did expand their sound a bit more on this album, with more hip-hop influences in some of the drumming, like on Descending, and in the instance of Fall For Me being mostly a cappella song with layered vocals and other effects. It's a really cool sounding song. The overall theme of the album is much darker than Sundowning, as a lot of the songs seem to be about the fallout of a relationship and the depression that kind of ensues from that, although it could be about a lot of things, because the band doesn't really go in depth with what their songs are about. They kind of just let the lyrics speak for themselves. And so the songs I recommend listening to first are Hypnosis, Alkaline, Atlantic, and The Love You Want. But again, listen to the whole thing. It's worth it. 2022 really wasn't a very eventful year for Sleep Token, as the only song they did release was a cover of Loathe's Is It Really You as a collaboration with the band. It is a solid cover, but it's nothing too crazy as it is in the style of all their other covers, with just Vessel singing and playing piano. And so that brings us to this year, 2023, which has proven to be a massive year for the band, as they've had a massive surge in popularity due to the release of new singles and their latest album, Take Me Back to Eden. Seriously, the band went from having 200,000 monthly Spotify listeners in January, and now they're at 2.5 million now. It's crazy. This album also did have a unique release schedule, with 2 songs being released in 2 days, those being Chokehold and The Summoning, and then 2 more songs within a 2-day period a couple weeks after, like Granite and Aqua Regia. And then a more standard release schedule for 2 more singles, Vor and Do You Wish That You Loved Me, making 6 total singles, exactly half the album. By this point, I think that Sleep Token's sound has been perfected, with the seamless genre blending and experimentation, as well as each song having a very cinematic feeling production, making the album sound huge. The songs I recommend checking out first, if you haven't already, are The Summoning, Vor, Ascensionism, and Take Me Back to Eden, though the entire album is great and is most definitely worth a listen. So, that's all I have written. Thank you so much for watching, if you made it to the end here. If you couldn't already tell, I was reading a bit from a script, but that should be alright. I do want to make this a series, so the next video will be in the next week or 2, and all I'm going to say is that it will be on another masked band, but not who you're expecting. So, with that said, I will let you go, so thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. See ya!